Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Despite the fact that aBeZy have had a substitute the last few days, they're still getting great performances so far in this league. And maybe a lot of that is down to the fact that probably they have the best SMG duo in the game. Shotzzy's gassing up Scump, saying that he's the best SMG player that he has ever played with. And Octane also giving Scump an awful lot of credit for his performances the last couple of years. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Really upset the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Of course, like we've seen so many of the kind of older generation of Call of Duty players so far this season have great success. Slasher winning the Stage 2 Major, Crimsix of course winning the Prime Classic, and Scump winning the Stage 1 Major, right? So it is great to see these kind of older heads still performing at a very high level, and Scump is a fantastic example of that really the last couple of seasons. Like look, he's not exactly the superstar #1 player by far player in the game that he used to be back in Black Ops 3 and Advanced Warfare, let's say, but you know, of course the competition back then maybe wasn't quite what it was today, but still he's right up there with one of the best players in the game even to this day. Just wanted to mention this actually because there was some talk about this recently, like you know, whether teams could do mid-season substitutions. This is actually a possibility. Like I feel like when the whole Gunless situation happened on Los Angeles Guerrillas, Bevels did a tweet to say they were effectively going to have a 5-man roster with you know, arguably you could say Spart comes in for the search and destroys, Gunless is there for the respawns. Now this is actually a possibility. It did happen once in Call of Duty history a few days ago back in 2020 on the 13th of May when it was Seattle Surge who subbed out Enable for Panda in the middle of a series. Like Joey Nubsy was the coach at the time, so he was seriously innovating. But I mean, yeah, this is an interesting one because Enable wasn't known, and understandably so, to be particularly good at search and destroy. So they subbed him out for the search and destroy and brought Panda into the team for that particular map too. Now the problem is, like, I feel like Enable, maybe understandably, felt incredibly disrespected by this to the point where like he was probably frustrated with the coaching staff, the rest of the team, that he was getting treated in this way. So it's not something that's maybe easy to execute, but it is something that is possible that some teams might consider that probably will happen again in Call of Duty at some point or another. But you know, is yet to be seen, at least over these last couple of years. This also to mention, if Malikat thought was a rather interesting tweet, SMG players that complain about the auto aren't actually taking SMG routes on the map and are overchalling lanes they shouldn't be taking without an AR looking over them. Interesting comment really. Like I do feel like this is true to a degree, that in the last few years the SMGs have got so good, like just the weapons in the game. The SMG like weapons in Call of Duty have always been good, but lately they've had like great aim assist ranges. They don't have particularly like an awful lot of recoil, so you can take crazy fights with the SMGs. And now in this game, like you're getting bodied by the auto from range and the MP40 has bloom and stuff, and then some SMG players are complaining about those gunfights, whereas in reality it's the fact that they're taking stupid routes. So I do think that's true to a degree. I do also think though that the auto, like if I had to choose which weapon's stronger in this game between the auto and the MP40, I do think the auto is the slightly better weapon. So there's definitely two sides to the story here, but I do remember really like just the comparison between Raid in Black Ops Cold War and Raid from Black Ops 2. Like if you had an MSMC and you were, let's say you were top red or top laundry or whatever it is, and you wanted to take a gunfight from top laundry against someone at an M8 into top red, like you would get destroyed 95% of the time because the MSMC had too much recoil. Like it was, you didn't get aim assist at that range, so that gunfight was so difficult. Whereas in Black Ops Cold War, it doesn't matter, the AK-74U baby, it shoots absolute laser beams. Let's just take the gunfight. So I do feel like SMG players have got somewhat blessed with that in the last few years, where their guns have just got way better and they don't have to be so careful with what kind of challenges they take. But in treating your perspective on that one, let's dive into this optic stuff then. So as Scump says, make sure you get better today. He's been playing a fair few days actually now with Shotzzy. They're playing some Valorant with Shotzzy the last couple of days as well. Like I'm sure Dashy has kind of got them into it actually. But yeah, Scump and Shotzzy so far this season, like I feel like well, in previous seasons we've talked about, okay, we've got Simp and aBeZy. Last season they were certainly the gold standard of SMG duos, and it felt like Scump and Envoy couldn't really match up to that quite. This season I think it's been the other way around. If anything, Simp is still like top 5 player in the game, I think. aBeZy is probably more like top 10 in that kind of range, which is kind of surprising really, given the fact that last year it was a very clearly Simp and aBeZy #1, #2, take your pick for who's the best player in the game. This year a different story. Both Shotzzy and Scump to me are top 5 players in the game. To me they are the scariest and most feared SMG duo, because Shotzzy, I mean, you know what you're going to get out of him. This guy's out of control, but Scump I think is the most consistent SMG. He's been putting up crazy numbers in the respawns on a consistent basis, and Shotzzy's often been the one taken over in the searches, right? So like these two guys, not just the chemistry seems to be there, but everything about their gameplay, the way it kind of meshes together. This like Shotzzy seems to be the SMG duo that Scump has needed for so many years, because even in the Dynasty days, Scump barely had an SMG duo. He was just doing it all by himself, right? Karma was kind of his duo, but he wasn't really like playing in a similar role to what Shotzzy does today. So I do feel like the way Call of Duty has progressed, Scump and Shotzzy are just an undefeated duo, at least at the present time. And of course there's also been some talk about, okay, when is Scump going to step away? He's always been hinting about retirement. Every single year he says, okay, I'll step away at some point, like maybe a couple more seasons, then I'll go. But I kind of doubt that will be the case until Scump feels that either he's no longer enjoying it, or he's no longer competitive, or he can no longer compete at that level. Because once you retire, like that's kind of it, right? Your days days are behind you. It's difficult to move on from that. You know, we've seen many players who retire, but they kind of want to come back and these type of issues. So I do have confidence that Scump isn't going to step away anytime soon. I'm pretty sure he's got at least another couple of seasons in him. I'm sure he's looking at some of the other players around him that are having great success. But Octane was giving him a lot of credit last year. Like, there's some interesting clips I'll share for you guys here. First of all, of Shotzzy saying that, like, look, Scump is, in his opinion, the best SMG duo that he has ever had. Kind of saying that, okay, the other SMG duo I guess he only really ever had was Huke, right, on the Dallas Empire, but reckon Scump kind of, you know, far eclipses that, at least in his eyes, especially in a 4 versus 4 setting. And Octane saying that he reckons Scump last year was a, you know, top 10 player in the game, and this year is also insanely good, if not even better, and it will helping up to get the results they have so far.
Now we compliment each other really good, bro. Like, Seth is 100% the best, like the best sub duo I've ever had, 100%. Like, just like just everything, the pacing, just like the way we go about things is just like God. Like, wait, who'd I have? I had Kyler as well. You know, I don't know.
Scumpy, man, I feel like this guy's
series out of the Ginger Ninja.
Yeah, dude, he's I was saying it during the watch party, Sam, but I just feel like he's aging like fine wine, man. You know, these guys.
So last year he was insane. I had him top 10 at the end of the game.
Yeah,
people call me
disgusting.
I think he was top 10 last year.
He's
Seth is
gross
like
right now,
legitimately insane. And I think it's just unfortunate because his sub duo is Ant.
Yeah,
so it's you're never gonna like be on the same level to fans, even though he is Seth, which is just absurd to say.
And even Crimsix, right, despite the kind of beef and the kind of back and forth that those two guys have had over the last few years, this was last season's Crimsix's kind of top players for Cold War. The list looked like this, and he gives Scump actually top 11, right? So in a very similar ballpark, kind of Octane said that Scump was top 10, even Crimsix gives him top 11, which, you know, Dashi was actually way down the list right here, but I feel like this is fair enough. Both of these guys agreeing that Scump was the best player on that Optic team last year, which I think, honestly, when you look at things, all things considered, you can argue that, right? Dashi had better numbers, but in terms of what Scump brought to the team, especially in their searches last year, I feel like he could well be argued to be their best player last season, especially given the role he was playing and all this type of stuff. And even this season, I think he's even better, right? Last year, if he was a top 10 player in the game, this year, I think he's certainly a top 5. That's at least what I would put him in that kind of ballpark right now. These are the top 3 in most people's eyes: Dashi, Cellium, Shotzzy, in whatever order you want to come up with. But in this most recent MVP ladder that Crone did back in April, it was Scump who got 5th, at least in terms of these rankings. And when Shotzzy is your SMG duo, it's probably rather easy to get outshone. But, you know, in Scump's case, he's not really getting outshone, to be honest. He's performing very well all across the board. Just wanted to look then at some Lion Man cards, really, because this is Scump's full year so far. Interestingly enough, actually, it's been his Search and Destroy that's been somewhat weaker compared to last season. Last season, he kind of had to do it all in Search and Destroy, and they still weren't doing that well. This season, I'm sure that Scump is probably rather happy to only have a 0.87 in Search, but still be winning way more of their searches than they were last year, despite the fact that last year he had like a 1.15 in Search. We'll see that here in a second. His control has been great, as is his hardpoints. And as I say, when you've got the best player in the game, Shotzzy, as your SMG duo, it's going to be rather difficult to slay out and drop crazy numbers. But Scump's still doing a great job of that. And as I said earlier, I do think he's the most consistent player on this team. Dashi is Dashi is going to drop these crazy series numbers, but I feel like if you look at Scump's stats, in terms of what he delivers on average per series, you pretty much know exactly what you're going to get out of Scump every series. What he's going to do in the search, what he's going to do in the respawns. You can always rely on him, and that's like, you know, pretty much exactly what you need. And of course, the experience is certainly, well, a story in its own right. This was Scump's last year, which is pretty similar to this season, right? Hardpoint control is actually significantly better this year. Last year, he had like a 1.14 in search, but as I said, they won way less of their search and destroys last year than they have done this year, largely due to the fact that they have a better team this year. But that's why I imagine Scump's kind of happy with the situation as it is right now. And this is, of course, the other part of Scump, really, is just longevity that he showed over so many years. This is from back in the Black Ops 1 days, all the way through to Black Ops Cold War and beyond, every single year that he's competed, right? This is what's so impressive about Scump, really, is the fact that he's been competing this long and is still competing at this level. And I'm sure he's been able to teach Shotzzy an awful lot as well. I'm sure Shotzi's like, you know, relishing the opportunity to play with Scump and learning an awful lot from what he's done in his history, right, and how to play the game and all this type of stuff that's going to make Shotzzy a better player. And, you know, I think kind of the hunger that we've talked about earlier this season from the likes of Shotzzy and Illy is helping Scump kind of keep that hunger alive within himself as well, because it's difficult, I suppose, after competing for so many seasons. But yeah, I wonder where Scump will end up kind of like in the top 10 list or top 15 or top 50 players or whatever list at the end of the season. Because last year, Octane thought was one of his best years in quite some time, and this year he may well be, well, I think statistically he's probably an even better player this year, to be honest, and Octane seems to agree. They're saying, you know, just giving this guy credit. So that's the thing to me, and I think it's a promising sign for guys like Octane as well, that it's like still relatively young, but he's already been around for several years in Call of Duty, and I'm sure he's looking at guys like Scump and other players and thinking, well, you know, I can extend my career for quite some time here in Call of Duty, and Scump and some of the other guys around him are certainly leading the charge on that front. Given the fact that we're talking about some of Scump's like best years years, right? Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3. We've got to talk about some more of these maps in Call of Duty because it does really make me sad in a way. Like, it makes me happy because these maps were so good. And I had a great time on so many of these maps, but at the same time, it does make me kind of sad, like, what we have today, what they delivered today. So anyway, the kind of a game that Lion Man's doing right now, a breaking point, is choosing the 2 best teams or the 2 best maps from some of these games. We looked yesterday at Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 2, Ghost, but here's Black Ops 3. So we've got 8 maps here to choose from. Like, to me, I mean, I don't know why Metro's in here exactly. Like, it was an interesting pick for sure. To me, it's Stronghold. I said yesterday I love Stronghold. This is one of my favorite maps ever. It was only played for 3 game modes. It was not played for Uplink, but the other ones it was all great for. And Fringe, I think it's relatively clear to me that Fringe and Stronghold should be the 1 and 2. Like, some people prefer the other maps. Like, Efek and Hunted, I liked a lot of these for Search and Destroy, but to me, Fringe and Stronghold are 2 of the greatest maps in Call of Duty history, so it's tough to get past that, especially for a jetpack game. Let's talk Infinite Warfare as well. So these are the maps that he comes up with for Infinite Warfare. Crusher was a funny one. Honestly, some of these maps were so stupid. Like, Crusher and Scorch, both for Search and Destroy, were just so one-dimensional. Crusher especially. Frost, of course, was that uplink map that the JCap moment on, which might be the most famous moment on that map. A few other good ones, though. Throwback is a phenomenal map. Honestly, I really like all these 4 on the left-hand side here. Retaliation, I think, is one of the most underrated maps in COD history. To me, that's the best map in this game. Hardpoint on Retaliation was absolutely superb. So was Search and Destroy. It was the only Search and Destroy map, Retaliation, where there was actually some complexity to the gameplay. Every other map was like, okay, let's 4-hit this bomb site, let's 4-hit this bomb site. Like, maybe Throwback was slightly different, but generally it was very one-dimensional in that game, especially Crusher, for example, when literally offense and defense would both 4-hit a site and hope it worked. Retaliation was the only map with like some extreme depth of strategy in Search and Destroy, and also I think the hardpoint was great on the map, so Retaliation for me is number 1. Picking the second is tough. I probably should go Throwback. I think it's probably the most iconic map in this game. Precinct, though, was really fun for pubs and for Uplink. Of course, it had some phenomenal moments on, and Breakout, once they fixed the spawns, I think it was actually a really good hardpoint map as well. But yeah, to me, Retaliation, Throwback, but honestly, like, all these 4 maps here on the left-hand side were genuinely really good, even though at the time everyone said, okay, these maps are a real letdown based on previous years, but, you know, looking back, you get a rather different story. And just to mention this from World War II, because as the years have gone on, I think it's got worse. To me, this is kind of clear again, even though Valkyrie definitely deserves a good mention. It's effectively Detroit from Advanced Warfare, but flipped on its head. I really didn't like Gibraltar. Terrible map. USS Texas, not even going to talk about it. Flak Tower was awful. Ardennes Forest, I didn't mind as much as some people did. London Docks is certainly out of the 2. I also would take Saint-Marie Dumont, I think, as my second. I really like that map for hardpoints. Search and Destroy was a bit more boring, so I'm actually not sure which one I'd pick for my second, but certainly London Docks, and you guys can decide the second, I guess, in the comment section below. And just to finish out with this clip as well from Black Ops 3, this I've said a few times, but it's still kind of funny. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button, tell us your YouTube gods, this is a good video, I just like you should see it as well, and hope grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you much as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.
I'm done, but